Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In today's session, let's explore how to draw trend lines in a more objective way. So, as this question in one of the ideas I published, how do we keep our subjectivity while drawing a trend lines? This is a very valid question because when you ask two persons to draw trend lines, it may completely look different. For example, I may see a trend line somewhere like this because say that these are the points where the price has rejected many places, so this is my trend line, and someone else will say that okay, this is their trend line because that's what they see as a more appropriate one, right? And someone else may see a much different one. For example, it can also somebody can draw it something like this and say that this is my trend line, right? These are the 2 points where the price has rejected, and this is how the trend line should be, right? So because the drawing trend lines is very subjective, and it gets influenced by lots of our biases, and lots of our experiences and all. So the idea of this session is to make it more objective so that anyone who tries to define a trend line using this method should derive a similar trend line. Okay, so another problem with drawing trend lines manually is that we try to fit this into historical price action. For example, I have seen some ideas published where people claim, or people drawn trend lines something like this. This is a trend line here down, and this is from the up, and this is a wedge. Together, it's forming a wedge, and when price has broken out, it has gone up. But do we really see this as a trend lines, and do we really see this as a wedge? That's really questionable because now we know that the price has gone up. It's easy to look at it as a wedge, but if you go back and if you go to replay mode and if you go here, do you really see a wedge here? Right, it's not very obvious at this location, this point of time, and it can be anything, and it can be a complete downturn, and it may just keep going down further, right? So it's very difficult, it's very easy to overfit, or if it's very easy to fit on what has already happened. Also, in this session, the methods will also overcome this kind of possibilities so that it will be more objective, and will it will not influence our biases, or it will not influence our other analysis and all. Sometimes what people do is maybe there are other methods or other biases which may say that the price has to go up now, so we'll try to fit a pattern which matches this kind of analysis. So those are the kind of drawbacks of doing it manually. So that's why let's try an algorithmic way. So as you know, I have developed lots of scripts related to trend lines and pattern recognitions and all. And most of them are open source and free to use. You can try to use them as well. But in this session, I'll try to explain how do I derive this in via algorithm. Okay, so the first thing what we need to know for pattern recognition is a zigzag indicator. So zigzag is a basic building block for any pattern recognition algorithm, right? So if you want to define a pattern, manually and in an algorithmic way, first thing you need to do is put a zigzag indicator on your chart. So there is a trading view zigzag, trading view and zigzag. So this one, technicals. So I can use this. I already loaded it here, and you can see that if I set reset defaults, there are a lot of things here. You don't need all these things. So to make it clear, just remove all these things, all these options, and let's just keep it plain, right? So that it's easy to understand how the price has moved between the over the period of time. So, but I do not want to use this in today's session. I will use my own implementation. It's called recursive zigzag. You can also get this in the public library. So just search for recursive zigzag, and here it is. You can just use this one, as well. That is I prefer to use this because one thing is this is my own implementation, and you can switch between different levels and see it in a different views. It will make it easy to identify the patterns or different patterns on the same chart, right? So I have put this indicator on, and what it does is it says zigzags in a different levels. Like for example, this is a level 1, and the level 2 is it forms a zigzag based on the level 1. So if you look at this, level 2 is slightly not this one. Level 2 will be slightly the distance between the pivots will be slightly higher. So I'll highlight level 2. So this is level 2, so it's a little bit the distance between the pivots are a little bit higher. And if you go back to level 3, it's much higher. See, this one is the much on a higher level. And if you go to level 4, sorry, level 4, it's much higher here. So level 5 is the last one which is available in this case. So level 5 is here. So let's start with the level 5. So level 5, if you look at this, it's too far away from the current price, so we can't really use level 5 here, right? Only thing is um, you can only draw trend line till here because the latest pivot available is here, so it's not really useful. Similarly, level 4 is also not useful for us. Level 4 also ends just here. There's no zigzag after this point. And if you go to level 3, so level 3 is it has trend lines extending till here. So, but if you look at this, there are only two pivots and there are only three pivots here. So it's not really ideal because when we draw trend line, we need to draw trend line. We need to draw a line which at least touches 3 points, right? Three pivots. So three pivot lows, but there are only two here. We can actually extend this further and make it touch this. It actually forms a good trend line, but it's too long, and there is no matching trend line on the other side. For example, if I try to draw a trend line from here, I can't do it for 3 points. I can only do it for 2 points, and it's not very convincing. So I don't see much a point in drawing trend lines at this level as well, right? So let's go to the next one, next level. So it's just 3 and then 2. So when you go to 2, there are like lots of small details here. So what you can do, so pivot lows, you can actually draw a trend line which touches more than one pivots, 1, 2, and 3, right? So this is our trend line for lower pivots. Similarly, I can do a trend line for higher pivots as well. So something like this, or let's remove the last one. Let's not do it for the last pivot because last pivot is still not confirmed. Let's see if we can do it for this one, right? So the previous last pivot. So if you look at this, this forms a perfect trend line for the higher pivot highs. And furthermore, uh, a trend line for the pivot high and trend line for the pivot low together creates a pattern. So this is a pattern of converging triangle, and the price has just broken out of the triangle. And this says like uh, we can apply your rules for trading your pattern. If you know how to trade all these different patterns, you can apply those rules and make use of them, right? And similarly, if you go further up, let me go to level 1. Level 1 is the last level, so this trend line still holds true for this. If you look at this, this touches lots of points, so it still holds a very good trend line for level 1 as well. For the pivot high, maybe this is a better trend line. So I'll remove this one. So this is probably a better trend line for pivot highs, right? So it touches multiple pivots again, 3 pivots minimum, and then it actually, instead of a converging triangle, this time it is a kind of a channel, like equidistance channel. uh, it need not to be completely equidistant all the time. So it's on an average, it's like the price ranges between these two levels. So like here too, the price is broken out, and you can say that this in this pattern, how do you want to trade when the price is broken out? You can apply that rule again, right? So that's all I think. um, and that's how you define trend line, or to draw a trend line on the chart in a more objective or algorithmic way. Let me know if you have any questions, and please go through the algorithms which I've already developed and published, open source and free, and make use of this. You can also use that to study the trend lines further. Thanks very much. Have a good day.